Hi friends, my name is Chris Coursey, and this week's skill thought is on the shame that sapped my joy. So I want to tell you a little story about a time I felt some shame and how I navigated that moment. So some friends and I were driving to the same place, only in separate cars. And so the first carload of people drove on ahead of me, and after a few minutes I followed behind with the expectation of seeing them at our destination. But I was quite surprised as I had gotten a few miles down the road that I saw their car pulled over alongside of the road. And I thought to myself, why are they pulled over? That's strange. So I cautiously continued to drive up to them. And as I got close enough where I could see their faces, they were all turned around looking back at me. And I thought, that's strange. What are they doing there? And I continued to slowly pull up to them, and as I got closer, I could see this delight on their faces. They were excited, they were joyful, they were almost enthralled with something, and I wasn't quite sure what that was. So as I pulled closer, I saw this joy and this delight start to shift to caution and alarm, and I wasn't sure what that was about. I was curious why they were waiting for me. So I felt my body start to tense up, and I felt a little guarded, and I was starting to shallow breathe and almost hold my breath, like, what's happening here? And I'm watching their faces this whole time, and I could just see the joy, and then I could see the caution and the alarm. And then suddenly, as I got really close to them, almost next to them, I saw this look of panic on their faces, and I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. And then out of the corner of my eye, my attention shifted from looking at their faces, which was now pretty much an alarm state, and the corner of my eye caught this, what looked like a turtle, right there in front of my car that I was about to run over. And before I could slam on my brakes, I heard the sounds of running over a turtle, and I felt my tires run over that poor turtle, and I felt my body tense up. I felt this panic inside of me, like, oh no, what did I just do? And then I saw the look on their faces, and there was this look of disgust, because they kind of watched this whole thing play out, and more than they planned on. And so they just looked disgusted. They're like, oh no, and they were crying out. Some of them turned their heads, and then I felt this wave of shame, like, oh wow, what did I just do? I just ran over this turtle that they were admiring, and I smashed it right in front of them, and I just felt my body swimming in shame. I felt my face go flush. My face was tense. I almost felt frozen in my shame. It was awful. I was not a source of joy to my friends in that moment. And immediately I started to apologize, and I said, oh, I'm so sorry, you guys. I didn't see this turtle. I'm so sorry. And I started to apologize, and I could still see the effects of what they just experienced on their faces. And my body was still very tense. I was shallow breathing. My shoulders were tight. And I just felt like I really failed to bring joy in this moment with people that I really cared about. So I took a deep breath, and I found myself praying in my head, like, oh, Lord, please bring your peace here, because I know that this had, in some ways, just traumatized some of my friends. And I started just kind of praying for them in my head, and at the same time just telling my friends, I'm so sorry, you guys. That was awful. And I just validated them in what I just did, and apologized for what I did, and just, reminded them I didn't even know the turtle was there. This is terrible. But I could feel, as I started to stay relational with them as well as quiet myself, I could feel the relief start to come over my body. I started to feel peaceful again. I started to notice my thoughts were calming down and slowing down. My shoulders loosened up. I didn't feel like I was swimming in that shame as much. I felt like I was getting my head above water, at that point, and my friends thankfully knew me enough to know my heart and know my intentions that I really would never want to do that purposefully. So they were like, Chris, we know it was an accident. We should have warned you, you know. And I was like, oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry. And so I felt like we were of the same mind again. We were on the same page. We were glad to be together. And that really, really felt good after that pretty tough moment. And I could just feel the peace fill up my body, and my stomach loosened up, and I could just relax. And so that was a really hard moment that my friends still talk about to this day. You know, like, wow, the time that Coursey ran over the turtle. And, you know, we're able to now tell a story about what happened, but we're still glad to be together and how we can recover from something that really was not fun. And that's the beauty of Skill 11, Return to Joy, that you can feel negative emotions and it doesn't kill you. It doesn't even necessarily have to ruin your day. You learn how to return to joy and keep relationships bigger than problems and still be glad to be together even when there's some negative emotions going on, even when, in my case, I'm the source of the distress. Then there's skill 12, which is acting like ourselves. And this is being the people that God created us to be when we feel negative emotions. And so thankfully I'd been practicing these skills up at this point so I could still kind of remember who I was in the midst of that shame. But these are skills we focus heavily on at Thrive. True Identity and Track 1 introduces these skills, and you have some fun with different exercises. Track 2 focuses heavily on returning to joy and acting like ourselves. And then Track 3 is all about learning solutions for the pain that happens when our brain doesn't finish processing those events. So I hope to see you at Thrive. You can start by enjoying the Thrive at Home online courses and videos where Dr. Jim Wilder teaches a lot of this material, and then I have online courses for you to apply the material to your life.